My name is Sally Cox, and we're going to talk about infographics. We're going to talk about, I'm going to show you some examples of ones that I've done and some ones that I like. We'll look at some ones that aren't so great and see if we can think of ways to improve them. And then, as I said, we'll do a little Illustrator work, we'll do a little PowerPoint, and we'll look at some of the online services, and then we'll talk about brainstorming when you have to create an infographic. If you're given a statistic or some data, how do you even go about doing that? So we'll talk about all of that. I have a lot of slides, but bear with me. We'll also do a lot of hands-on stuff as well. So there's the link if you want to get the files. Just a quick slide about me. I was just telling some of you, I live in Reno now, but I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, but I've been living in the Bay Area for about 16 years with my daughter. Just recently moved to Reno. I've been involved with Adobe software for over 25 years. I spent about 17 years traveling all over the world as an Adobe software trainer. And that's really fun when you're a single mother, may I add. So now I work from home, and I create e-learning and instructional design, and infographics are a part of my everyday world. I also have 2 courses on lynda.com and LinkedIn Learning, both on e-learning topics. I'm a software trainer, and my company is called creatable.com. So I work from home, and I create e-learning, and I'll show you some samples of that in a little bit. But that's just a little bit about me. So how would you describe an infographic? Anybody have a guess at how you would, what a definition of an infographic might be? There's no right or wrong answer.
It's just a way to tell a story with using numbers, but putting them into pictures.
That's a good way of putting it, yeah. So here's my definition. It's the term data visualization is one of the terms that we use a lot, but basically what Maria just said, taking data and putting it into a visual format of some way. So there are all kinds of things that are infographics that you might not really even think about. Maps are infographics. If you take the type away, now this is an old map because I love old stuff, but even just an everyday, a Google map, if you take the text away, you should still be able to figure out what the story is and find your way around without it. And that's what makes one of the things that makes a good infographic. So here's another example. This is just a snippet of the Manhattan subway system. Now looking at this, there's a lot of type on here. But if I removed all of that type, it would still be pretty logical. So what are some of the visual elements in there that help to, if you just imagine, I should have taken all that text off, but that would have been a lot of work. Just imagine if it didn't have all that text on it, what are some of the visual elements there that help you to figure out where you are? Anybody have any guesses? Just some, you know, I'm thinking like color.
I was thinking the colors.
Colors.
If you took the color away, it'd be hard to tell.
Right. And maybe these little circles maybe help as well. And you know, just the shape of the island and everything. I just think I don't live there, so it wouldn't be easy for me, but for someone who lived there, I think if you took the text away, it still would stand up. And so to me, that's almost an infographic. Here's another example. This is just a seating chart from the Chicago Symphony. And again, take the text away, you kind of have nice, clear shapes so you can get an idea of what the interior looks like. This is widely considered to be the first infographic ever created on a ship called the HMS Beagle with Charles Darwin. And this was storm and cyclones that they were charting. But I think that's pretty cool. This was made in the 1800s, and I think it looks like it could be modern today. I love stuff like that. So infographics have a lot of uses, but they basically help people to understand the message that you're trying to get across. So if you're trying to say something and you have a lot of data, a great visual is a good way to help reinforce that message. So one of the things I want to get across is another reason for using infographics is to grab people's attention. Instead of just having a bulleted list or paragraphs of copy, if you have a nice visual, it can really draw people's eye in. So our attention span is getting smaller and smaller. So this is the attention span in 2001, the average was 12 seconds. Now it's down to 5 seconds, which if you have children, you would understand that. So we really just have a very limited amount of time to grab somebody's attention and make them stay. So a good graphic is really helpful for that. So what roles do infographics play? They support your story, so I'm going to give you a couple examples of that. The one on the top left is just a simple one that I created a long time ago because I'm tired of people emailing me or sending me messages asking me to look something up that they could Google themselves. So I made that little one. But you know, this one about I am 75% water, I pulled that off the web. That's a very striking visual. I might be able to come up with some other ideas for it, but just looking at it, I think it's a good, strong visual. The pie chart is just one I grabbed off the web. You know, you can make those very easily in Illustrator and PowerPoint. This is another one that I did for a talk I was giving. And again, it just reinforced my message about onboarding. When you start with a new company, onboarding is always a problem. So this one I created to support the message that I was making when I was doing a speech. So again, just some examples. An infographic can be a simple chart or a graph. It can be a lot more complex, and it can be static or it can be interactive. So I'm just going to show you here. When I talk about interactive, I have a few on my in my website that I want to share with you. So I'm going to go back here to my website. So these are just ones that I created with a program called Storyline, but there are a lot of different programs you can use. But for example, here's one, and it's got some audio, but the basic idea is that you stay in one place, and then you can click on these different buttons and they bring up information and tell you more about it. So you're not going all over the place, you're staying in one place. So that's kind of what an interactive infographic is. So I'll give you another example. I have one in here on Titanic. Let me show you that one. It's taking a while for my images to load. There they are. I love Titanic, the ship, not the movie. So this again is another one. The background stays where it is, but it gives you some links across the top that you can get other information without leaving that, you know, that one page. So again, this is an example of an interactive infographic where you have to actually engage with it to, you know, click a link or a button or something like that to get the information. It's still an infographic, but it's interactive. Okay, so another way we can use infographics is if you're trying to compare things. So again, I just want to drive home the point that having a visual makes it so much easier. So if we were all working on the same team and they just had a meeting and talked about everybody's monthly points, and I gave you this information, I think this is really hard to visualize. Susan had the most points for the month and Matt had the least. Susan had 20 points more than both Joe and Ellen and 10 points more than Mary. I'm trying to picture that in my head and I'm not really seeing it, but if you just put a simple graphic with it, I know instantly that Susan had the most points and I know instantly that Matt really didn't do that well that month. So again, same information, but just giving you a visual, it just makes it a little bit easier for you to understand it. And that's a simple graph that we can create in Illustrator, and we're going to go in and work on those in a few minutes. But do you all agree that by having a visual there, it just makes it that much easier? I'll give you another example in a few minutes, but directives. So if you wanted to give someone directions on somewhere, so for example, if we were in San Francisco and you were at one starting point and I wanted you to be at another, and I give you these directions, you would have to start at that exact same spot. If you stopped for coffee somewhere or you made a wrong turn, you're not going to know how to get back on track. But if I give you a map and show you where you start and where you end, if you stop off for coffee somewhere or make a wrong turn, you can kind of see where the landmarks are and get yourself back on track. So again, just adding that visual makes it that much easier. They can also be used to teach and share important information. So these are just a few examples that I found on the web that teach information. So an infographic can just have one little snippet of information, but it can also teach more complex topics. That one on the right has on the left has a lot of information, and it's explained in a visual way. It's a lot easier to understand. And this is an example of mine. I was telling Erica before that this is one of mine. When I moved to the Reno area, Lake Tahoe, everybody there are black bears everywhere, and the people just coexist with them, which I just thought was amazing. but if you just, the main thing is you just have to know how to get rid of them if they're in your yard. And so I wanted to learn more about it, so I created this infographic, and it was picked up by the Bear League. The Bear League is down here as well too, but they try to save the bears and, you know, and keep from killing them if possible if they're getting into garbage. So I created this, and this is actually in every rental unit in Lake Tahoe. They made kitchen magnets. I made a smaller one that's a kitchen magnet. So it's being used everywhere, and I'm kind of proud of that I actually am doing some good with my infographic. So again, it's teaching you something. It's got a lot of good, useful information on there, and it's teaching you something. So different things that you want to consider when you're using infographics. Images and graphic elements obviously are the main element, and text is either minimal or absent altogether. Now obviously this isn't going to stand up without all the text on it, but most infographics you can kind of get an idea of what the story is even if you remove the text. And they're well organized, and they're arranged in a logical flow. So those are some of the main characteristics of infographics. Some places that we can look for inspiration, and I'd love to hear if you guys have any ideas on your own. Anybody a Pinterest user in here? Pinterest is fabulous. It's one of those things you can get lost for 4 hours on. But I love Pinterest. Hi, thank you for coming. I'm Sally.
Hi.
What's your name?
Leah.
Nice to meet you, Leah. If you have a laptop and you want to download the files, I'll give you, there's a link right here. Let me know if you need any help, okay? So Pinterest is a good place to look. Let's go out and take a look at Pinterest real quick. You're not really going to make me sign in. No, you're not. Okay, good. Okay, so I can go in here and I can look for infographics. INFO. So here, there's a whole bunch of them in here, and you can find ones you like and ones you don't like, but there's just an enormous amount of inspiration. This one catches my eye. It has some eye-catching graphics. So Pinterest is a good place to look. Another good place to look is Adobe Behance. Anybody in here using Adobe Behance at all? Okay, so it's a place where you can get inspiration, you can network with others, but it's basically for building a portfolio. So let me show you Behance. So this is Adobe Behance. So I have my portfolio on here. If you're a Creative Cloud user, and I think you all have access to Adobe Creative Cloud, you have access to something called Behance, where you can build yourself your own portfolio. I'll just show you mine. So it puts everything in here like this. This is a way that you can network. People can appreciate your work. They can comment on it. And then from here, you can even build a more professional customer-facing portfolio if you want. The reason I'm showing you this is not to show off my work, but to show you that you can go under the magnifying glass and you can search for infographics. So there's a lot of inspiration in here. There's also a lot of free templates that you can download. So if you're a Creative Cloud user, you want to go to behance.net, and you can sign up with your Creative Cloud username and password, and you can start building yourself a portfolio if you like. It's a free service that comes with Adobe Creative Cloud. And here I did a search for infographics, and there's a ton of resources in here. There are templates, there's lots of inspiration, you can follow people on here. So again, if you're a Creative Cloud user, make sure you check out Behance for lots of reasons, but one reason is that you can go in and find a lot of great inspiration on infographics. Google is another one. You can just Google infographics. That's another great place to find them. I mentioned Adobe Behance. Creative Block is another great place to look for infographics. They've got a terrific blog. If you're a creative person or a designer, that's a great one to follow, Creative Block. Anybody have any other ideas on places where they might have seen infographics? You can see them in the newspapers and magazines. Anybody have any other resources? No? Okay. So those are some of the ones that I recommend. So you can create them from a variety of different applications. We're just going to use a few of these today. My number one is Illustrator, because it's designed for that sort of thing. It's very easy to work with, and we're going to get our hands wet with Illustrator today, creating some infographics. It's also got a great graph tool, so you can use it to build all kinds of graphs and charts. So we're going to talk about that as well. They've got symbol libraries, so you can get some free artwork in there if you want. There's transparency, some wonderful drawing tools. PowerPoint is another one. One key advantage to PowerPoint is that everybody has it. So it's easy to use, and you can certainly create, you can even create interactive infographics in PowerPoint, so we'll play with that a little bit as well. And objects are right where you place them, unlike Word, so you want to move things around and place them on the page. It works a lot like Illustrator in that way, that it's object-oriented. So very easy to create infographics in PowerPoint. Keynote, which is very similar to PowerPoint, is another great way to create them. You can also use e-learning programs. I use one called Storyline, but there are, I showed you some of the interactive ones I created. They were created with Storyline. And we're also going to create an interactive PDF in here. I have a PDF file that we're going to use to create an infographic that's interactive from PDF files. I bet you didn't know you could do that, but you can. And then there are some online services. Eric and I were talking earlier about Infogram, which I had not really used before, but it's a great one. I've used Venngage. Most of these are either, I think Infogram is free. The others are a paid service, but they let you make a certain number of them for free. And by the way, if you want my slides, I'm happy to share them with you afterwards. So I'll talk to Erica and we'll figure out a way if you want them, okay? All right, so we're going to talk about creating them. I just want to show you a few things here. Things to think about when you're starting out. Who is your target audience? So if you're doing something for a more techie audience, you would do it a little bit differently than you would do maybe for a more general population. So things to think about: do you want it to be static or interactive? Is it going to be printed? Is it going to be on a website? Lots of things that you want to think about. And what is the message? What's the story that you want to deliver? And these are some of the different things that we can do. And again, I'll share these with you and you can read them more later. But just some things to think about on choosing a topic. Sometimes you don't have the option. Sometimes your boss comes to you and says, here's some data I want you to put into an infographic. And so you kind of have to find a way to do it. And we'll talk more about that. So these are just some brainstorming techniques. And we'll talk about these more later. Some of them involve just you sitting by yourself. Some of them involve you sitting with a group. Lots of different ways, if you're part of a team, lots of different ways that you can do what's called mind mapping and coming up with ideas on how to build a good infographic. So those, we'll get back to those later. Those are some resources that you can use to get statistics, and again, I'll share that with you later. And we're going to talk about some good examples and some bad examples, and then we'll get our hands wet with it. So this is a good example, in my opinion, because it's got one of the things that is a good thing to have in an infographic, and that's called a visual hook. A lot of infographics have one really powerful graphic, and everything else kind of circulates around it. So in this case, it's the dinosaur, and then all the information fits around it. I kind of like that one. Do you guys like that? Anything you like about it? I love the colors, too. This happens to be one of mine. It's modular. So this is, if you aren't a designer or you're having a hard time thinking of something original, this is a great trick. Just put things in boxes. I separated them with color and just threw a graphic in there. And this one has been spread all over. I've been sharing this one all over the internet for a couple years. But again, very colorful, but it's not rocket science. It's just boxes with information in it. I love this one. I wish I could take credit for this one, but I can't. I think this is beautiful. There's that strong visual hook in the center, and then all the information around it. But notice that everything is kind of separated and modular, so that you know that when you're reading this, this goes together, this goes together. So it's not all thrown together. It's really organized. I think that one's really beautiful. Like that one?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, like, I thought it was like a great presentation and everything. Same with the other one, but for like an infographic, don't you want it to be like not as busy so they don't get overwhelmed? Because like the writing's really small, there's a lot going on. Like I feel like I would get super overwhelmed, and I feel like you need to make like clear and concise
I completely agree with you. I think this is probably a spread in a magazine, and there's a heck of a lot of information here. I think there's way too much. I can see where this would be a great interactive infographic where you're not seeing everything all at once. I agree with you. It is busy. I don't know what to say about that. I guess it would have been better if if there was less on the slide, but I still think, even though it's busy, it's separated enough. It would take me an hour to read all of that, but it's separated enough that you can tell things apart. But that's an excellent point. I like them to be simpler than this, but if somebody comes to you and gives you all this information, what do? You have to find a way to organize it somehow. So, but good point, excellent point. Here's another one with a strong visual hook and all the information around it. And notice they use the black. They're making a point here. So they use color. The yellow is the prominent color in the head. The yellow is the prominent color down below as well. So good use of color here. Notice that the green, where it says brainstem, you can see exactly where the brainstem is. So again, if you removed some of the text, you could still get an idea of what was going on in the story. This is another one of mine. I'm really big on the whole modular thing. Again, I have a daughter who doesn't like to listen to me, so I make infographics and put them up on the web so that she sees them, and then she doesn't know that I'm teaching her. So she isn't really that great at driving in winter, so I wanted to give her some tips. But again, simply just putting things in boxes of color and separating them, and then my visual hook on one side. I'm kind of on the fence about this one. I'm not particularly thrilled with it, but I like the fact that it's got the recognizable logos, much better than just writing Facebook and writing Twitter. So it's a little busy, but I like the fact that they use the recognizable logos. That was the point I wanted to make with this one. I like this one as well. This one works very well with the color. Again, I think of this the same when you look at weather maps, when they're showing you how much rain somebody is getting and you see in the green area is more than the blue or something. Same thing here. The color coding is going on, and you can kind of get an idea of where of where everything fits together with that little legend at the bottom. So I like that it's got a lot of empty space around it, but it still has a lot of information. And I thought this one really evoked emotion. I thought this one was very powerful. Again, that strong visual. This is a real common thing where you set things up into sections, so that there's a story you want to tell, and then another story, and then another story, and you separate things with blocks of color. So this is another example. I didn't do this one, but this is another example. Another modular one I found online. Another strong visual. I love that one too. And these are not so good. So let's talk about some ways that we might be able, this is my opinion. I think this is incredibly boring. So it's just cheeses. And it was bigger than this. I just showed you a couple of them. But, just putting a graphic with the cheese, the name of the cheese and the information underneath it is kind of boring. How could we spice this up? I was thinking of maybe a photograph of a bunch of different cheeses, and then you click on one and it comes up and tells you cheddar or something like that. I just find this kind of boring. What do you think? Any other ideas on how we could make this more interesting? A strong visual would really help. Something that maybe, again, a photograph having all those cheeses together, and if you can make it interactive, but if you can't, at least it's a more interesting visual than this. I think this one's kind of boring. Do you agree? Beautiful. That's a great idea, because they're listing. That's a really good idea. Try not to come up with better answers than me, could you? No, I'm just kidding. I think that's a great idea. I hadn't even thought of that. I was focused on the cheese plate. But you're right. By putting a map and then showing where they come from, that's a great idea.
Just depends what you want people to remember.
Absolutely. Yep. I found this one to be kind of confusing. I'm not really even sure what the message is, but I think it could be a little bit more interesting. I think the graphics are a little hard the type's a little hard to read. I can think of some ways that I'm not even sure what the message is here, but I just didn't like that visual. I think the color coding means something, but I'm not exactly sure what it means. I just found this one to be a little bit confusing. This one's a little boring. I hid her name because I didn't want to embarrass anybody. Any ideas on how we might be able to do this? Is marketing strategies. So I think some visuals could be helpful here. You know, maybe a picture under images, maybe a picture of a photograph or something, and under research, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of some strong visuals to go with it, but I think this one could be a lot more interesting as well. And I'm not sure why the pink. I don't know what that signifies. So I thought that one was, I'll bet that was created in PowerPoint. Here's another one that kind of is wasting the whole idea of the infographic. They got a graphic there, but then they put all the text. So again, if there was some way to show that in a visual way, instead of just listing all that text on the side, it kind of defeats the purpose. And is that how you spell speedometer? I guess that's right. Okay. This one, I didn't like the head. The head, I think it looks mean. That's the first thing I looked at, and I thought, he looks mean. And the arrows, hello 1980, I would probably say those two things. I think this is good. And the graphic doesn't bother me. I just don't like the head and I don't like the arrows. What do you guys think?
The head just isn't the same amount of detail as we like animals.
Good point. Yeah, that's a good point. I think, yeah, I'm going to go on a limb here and say maybe because they're emphasizing the animals and not the person, but I agree with you. But the first thing that caught me was he looks mad. And I just think, yeah, everybody has their own impression. That's the first thing that jumped out at me. But I think this is good here on the side. Anyone like this one? I wouldn't even know how to begin. Like you were saying, you thought the other one was busy. This must give you a headache. I don't even know how you begin with something like this, other than, like I said, if you could make it interactive so that you didn't have to look at all of that at once. But that'd be an interesting challenge. Not one I want to take, but just wanted to show you that. I think it's a little busy. Another one that, again, just, you know, it's okay, but it could be better. I always threw this one in. I have a hard time looking at this one with a straight face. I just think we could do better than this with this one. Just, you know, a stronger visual that maybe we can, you know, the tech savvy maybe could come out of the hands. I don't know. I'm just thinking of some different things I could do with that. But I find this text is kind of hard to read, too many typefaces.
So I want it to be those percentages to be the percent of the body, but it's not going to add up to 100%. You know what I mean? By putting it on a person, I want it to just be 100%, but it's not.
You know, I didn't even notice that they don't add up to 100. I didn't even see that. You're right. Yeah, I guess that's kind of what you naturally would think of when you see those percentages, but they don't add up.
It's kind of random the percentage.
It is. Yeah, it really doesn't have it just doesn't work for me. So anyway, so those are my slides. I thought maybe we would go in and get our feet wet in Illustrator. Does everybody have Illustrator? Anyone who doesn't have it on their computer? Do you guys all have Illustrator? Okay, so go ahead and launch Illustrator if you have it. We'll just do a real quick beginner lesson. I'll show you how to do some graphs and charts in here, and maybe I'll spark an interest for you if you're not an Illustrator user. So launch Illustrator if you haven't already, and we're going to open a new document.
Can you launch Illustrator if you don't have it on your computer?
You don't have it on your computer?
No, I only have InDesign and Photoshop.
Okay, so you would have to download it, and it's probably going to take a while. I'll tell you what, if you want to come up here, if you don't mind working on my computer, I can talk you through it. Would you like to? Come on up.
Can I borrow a mouse?
Some mics up here.
Okay, hold on, we'll get one for you.
Yeah.
Do you need one too?
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Of course. Sure. I'm not one of those people who can work with the trackpad. I need a mouse too. Do you guys need a mouse? Anybody? You want one? No, I just opened, I'll tell you what, I'll start again. I just opened the print one before you were here. You're right. Let me start again. So I'm going to close this one that I have open. So here's what you see when you first open the program. It's kind of called the welcome screen. Let me make sure that do you have Illustrator on your computer? Okay. So you guys all have Illustrator open? So you should see this welcome screen that I see. So if you click the new button, yours looks a little different, but you're under print. You're in the right place. We'll just use a letter-sized document. So click new, and it should give you some categories, and you can choose print, and you should be able to pick an 8.5 by 11. Go ahead, Maria.
Jillian.
Jillian, sorry, Jillian, sit down. I don't mean to make you nervous. So you can go to print.
Okay.
It gives you some choices. We'll just go with letter size, and then click create.
Okay.
So it's opening in a measurement called points. And if you're not used to using that and you want to switch to inches, that's easy for us to do. So does everybody have a new document open? Anyone need help? Okay, if you're all on Macs, am I right? Anybody on Windows? Okay. Oh, I like this. This is cute. So do a Command R for ruler. So Command R, that will turn your rulers on. And then if you right click on your rulers, up on that black area, either at the top or on the side, right click and choose inches. And now your document is reading in inches. You might not be used to points or pixels, so you might be more comfortable with inches. If you want to change it to a different one, feel free. So now you're viewing it in inches. So let's go in and play a little bit with the graph tool. So we're going to go into your tools. Your tools might be in a double row or it might be in a single row. Whichever way they are, we're looking for this one. It looks like a bar graph. There you go, column graph, I mean. Everybody able to find that one? Choose that tool, come onto your page and just click and drag an area. And when you release your mouse, it's going to bring up a dialog box to let you enter some information. So we're starting by drawing a graph, so it should look something like this, right? So I'm just going to make up some numbers here. So as you're typing in the field, then hit your tab key, it'll take you to the next one. So let's start with, let's do 26, you hit tab, type 19, hit tab, 33, hit tab, and 50. Now you can hit the check mark, or you can close this and it'll say, do you want to save it? Either one of those will work. So either click the check and then close it, or close it and it'll come up and say, do you want to save this? So there's your first graph. It's coming up in black and white, but we can change that. Is everybody okay? Erica, are you okay with that? All right, excellent. All right, so there it is. So we have two tools that we work with. At the top, you'll see there's a black arrow and a white arrow in your toolbar. If you choose the black arrow, you can select the whole piece and move it around on your slide, or on your page, I should say. Show off. I'm just kidding. You okay? All right, if you want to select something individually, you'll use the white arrow. So everybody grab the white arrow and do what I call clicking off. So click off to the side somewhere so that nothing is selected. Now click on one of the boxes. And now you can select just one piece. And your swatches should be open. If they're not, I'm going to help you find them. So one moment, please. So you want to go up under Window and go to Swatches. And I'll show you later how you can set up your, may I show you, if you pull this off, it'll sit there and then you don't have to worry about it. Otherwise it disappears. So same for you. Oops, excuse me. If you pull that off, there you go. So if your swatches are showing, see how I pulled mine off so they stay there? So what you want to do, grab the word swatches and pull that down so that it kind of pulls it off separate. There you go. Now when you click these double arrows, these go away, but this will stay open.
Okay. Thank you.
Good, you got it. Jillian, you okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so there. So she was able to change them. So now that we have that graph created, if you want to change data, let's say one of the numbers changes. So I want to select the whole thing. Which tool do I use to select the whole thing? The black arrow, right. So get your black arrow, click off somewhere, and then select the whole thing. Go up under Object.
Where's the object?
I'm sorry, the drop-down menu is at the very top. In the white bar at the very top of the screen, it says Object.
Where?
Right here.
Oh, okay.
And then down to Graph, and to Data, all the way down, and Data. Now that lets you change one of your numbers. So if you wanted to click in one of those fields and change a number, and again, click the check mark, even if you've changed the color, it'll still stay there. It'll just change it to the new information. So your boss calls you and says, hey, that one bar needs to be 56 instead of 50 or something. You can easily go in and change it. And again, hit the check mark, and then close the box, or close the box and it's going to say, do you want to save it? And you say yes. Now you can change it to different types of graphs too, very easily, by still having it selected and going up under Object to Graph and go to Type. And you can choose from all these different ones. Now some of these won't show color, but if you choose the second one over, for example, which I think is called a stacked column, and click OK, there's your data displaying as a stacked column. So just by entering the information once, you can go in and make all kinds of changes. So take a minute and experiment with some of the different ones. There's a radar, there's a pie chart. You okay?
Yeah.
You all right?
Yeah.
Are you able to change the color? If you are, that's fine. I just want to make sure if you're stuck, I'll help you.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. You ladies okay? Were you able to change the color?
Yeah, I
looks like you
changed
were.
the
Okay,
color.
good. So again, we just entered the information once, and we can get a variety of different looks from it.
And what about the line graph? Like when you click line graph, you get that.
I think it's because we don't have the right sort of data for it.
No, yeah.
I think that's right. I think you have to have comparative sets of
You
data,
have to
and we don't
have a
that.
X axis.
I think so.
So
yeah.
how do you do that?
So you would go back under Object to Graph and go to Data, and I think you'd have to have 2 rows. I'm not sure. I don't use that kind.
Okay.
But it does give you the option to change.
A transport.
There you go.
Yeah, row column. Oh, okay, cool.
Now I want to also show you how you can be a little bit more creative with this. Once you play with it a little bit, take a minute, make sure you feel comfortable changing to a different type of graph. Make sure you can change the colors. So you can make each one of those a different color or something if you wanted.
Yeah.
Now, I like to make custom designs out of them. So I'm going to show you, we're going to do something simple. We're going to make a house. So instead of these bars, it's going to show a house instead. USA Today used to do that a lot. I don't know if they do that anymore, but I think it's fun to come, you can do like flowers or something and make the flower taller. So we're going to go in a minute and work with that. So make sure everybody's able to change your data, change the color, change to a different type. Everybody okay? All right, so now go ahead and select that with your black arrow and delete it. Now we're going to draw a house. We'll do something really simple. So you have some shape tools, and you want to find, see that polygon? If you hold down on that, you'll find the rectangle tool. We're looking for the rectangle tool. The letter M is the shortcut to take you to that tool, but you'll see that your shape tools, Jillian, could you hold down on that rectangle for a second just to show all those tools? See all those tools in there? So if you were on the polygon tool last, that's the one you're going to see. You have to hold down on it to choose the rectangle. So is everybody able to find the rectangle tool? Come onto your page and draw a tall rectangle, any size, it doesn't matter. There you go. That's going to be our house, so just make it whatever color you want. Now I want to point out to you, over here in your toolbar, this is fill and this is stroke. So if you wanted to have a red outline and you want the inside to be green, the fill will be green and the stroke will be red. So with the object selected, whatever object you drew, look over here in your toolbar. If the fill is in the front, choose a color from your swatches to fill it. Then you can click on the stroke or you can use the letter X. The letter X will bring the fill or the stroke to the front. So if you have fill there and you wanted to work on the stroke, hit the letter X. It'll bring the stroke to the front, or you could just simply click on it. So try that so you see how that works. So you bring the fill or the stroke to the front, whichever one you're working on. And the box has to be selected because we have to tell Illustrator we want that to be green or whatever color you're making it. Is everyone able to change the color? Okay. The next thing we want to do is draw a triangle and build the roof. So we're going to go back to where that rectangle tool is and hold down on it and find the polygon tool. Now here's the trick. Jillian's going to show you. Click and drag, don't release your mouse. So Jillian, if you could just click and drag, any size is fine. Okay, oh see, I had made it a triangle already. So Jillian's going to hold her up arrow down. Don't release your mouse. Keep your mouse down, but can you hold your up arrow? And you'll add, see how she keep going, and she's adding sides to it. So you probably have a polygon. So you want to click and drag and hold down on it. While you're still holding, use your down arrow, and that'll take sides away. The default has 5 sides. So if you click and drag and you're still holding down on it, use your down arrow twice, and you'll end up with a triangle. And I'll walk around and make sure that's working for everybody. You got it. Good job. And then you'll use your black arrow if you need to make it wider or put it into position. You all right? Mm-hmm. Now, if you want it to be perfectly straight across, I think she's got it. So if you're turning it, hold your shift key down. Shift key, see how it now is perfectly horizontal?
Yeah, yeah. Nice.
You ladies okay? So let me show you what I meant by the shift key.
For the stroke, so like I press stroke, and then I click like yellow, and then...
It's really small. You need the stroke panel. So I should have shown you how to pull up some of your other panels first, but if you go into the window menu and find stroke, and do the same thing we did with the swatches, grab the word stroke and pull it off so it sits on your desktop, and then you can go in and change the stroke, and you can even, there's options on the side. So ladies, look up here for a second. In your stroke panel, I'm just gonna pull this over here so you can see it, yours probably looks like, whoops, yours probably looks like this. So you wanna go to this little button right here on the side that has your context menu and choose show options. And when you do that, it gives you a whole bunch of other options like dashed lines and things like that. Is everybody okay? So I'm just showing you that in case you want to make the line around your object bigger. So everybody has a house and a roof. So now let's go and add a tall, thin rectangle to make a chimney. You know, maybe something on this side, something, anything like that. You can change to different colors if you want your roof to be a different color, whatever you want to do. Good job. And remember, you'll use your black arrow if you need to move it at all. Get your black arrow, you can use that to resize it and to move it into position. And please let me know if you get stuck. That looks good. Everyone all right? Okay, so you're on the polygon. Okay, so you released your mouse. I'm going to delete that. Try again. Draw another polygon. Now don't release your mouse. Keep holding that down. See how it has 5 sides? Hit the down arrow once. Now it has, there you go, one more. There you go. Now, while you're turning it, if you hold your shift key down, it'll make it perfectly horizontal. So now you can release your mouse, and now you can resize it with the black arrow if you need to. Are you all right? Yeah. Okay. Jillian, you okay?
Yeah, I'm just a little, like stuck.
Okay,
with
tell me what you're stuck with.
With the outline, the stroke, like it's yellow and
Do
like.
you want it to be yellow?
I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out how to change all
so
of it.
Again, you're using the black arrow. Let's say you wanted to change the roof. So select the roof. If you wanted to take off that yellow stroke, ladies, this little white box with the red line through it, it's in your swatches panel. It's also right here on your toolbar. That is none. So if you want to take off the stroke, make sure your item is selected. Make sure your stroke is in the front, and do what Jillian just did. She hit that button to turn off her stroke. So if you wanted this box to have no fill, you would select it, you would bring the fill to the front, and you would click the none button. This is the Adobe symbol for none. It's a white box with a red line through it. So if you don't want a stroke on your objects, if you can't figure it out, raise your hand. I'll be happy to help you. But we should have a house, a roof, and a chimney at this point, right? And if you want to zoom in or out to look at it more, Command plus and Command minus allows you to zoom in and out. So if you're, for some reason your house is enormous and you can't see the whole thing, you can zoom out by doing Command minus, and that will zoom it out for you. All right, so if you've got your house drawn, we're going to get our black arrow tool, and I call it just drawing a marquee. If you just hit part of the object, it'll select it. So you want to maybe start and do a click and drag to select the whole thing. We want all 3 pieces selected. So there's a couple ways you could do that. So Jillian's going to show you. If you're using the black arrow, you can click once. She just clicked once on the rectangle. If she holds her shift key down and selects the roof, and holds her shift key down and selects the chimney, that's one way to select everything. Another way would be Command A, which is select all. And then the third way is the way I just mentioned with the black arrow. If you just drag a marquee over it, if you touch the object, it becomes selected. So for example, may I show you?
Mm-hmm.
Watch up here. I want to select the whole thing. If I draw a marquee right here, I only selected the rectangle. You got to draw it so that it at least hits everything. Then you can select them all. So once you have all 3 items selected, go up under Object to Graph. I always get confused, I always forget. I think it's Design is what we want. And this is kind of funky. You have to make it, then you have to rename it. So choose New Design. And now rename it and call it House. That's just silly to me. Let me name it while I'm making it.
How do you name it?
Rename. Call it House or whatever you want to call it. And then just click OK.
Oh my God, I can't type.
You're fine. Whatever. And then click OK again. And now you can delete the one that's on your page. All right? So now we have this saved. Now we're going to go in and draw another graph, add some data, and tell it use the house for the columns. Okay? Did everybody get theirs saved? Anybody need help? All right, so we're going to start again with the graph tool. So go find the graph tool. It doesn't matter what kind of graph you draw. Just draw a big box on your screen to create the graph. Throw some numbers in there, maybe 4 numbers. Use your tab key to separate them. And then again, you're going to use the check mark to apply it and then close the box, or close the box and it's going to ask you if you want to save it. So you should have something similar to what Jillian has. Please raise your hand if you're not okay. That's all right. You've never used it before. Say that again.
I drew a box and then I tell it to make a graph.
Oh no, you're using the rectangle tool. So we delete that. You want to use the graph tool right over here.
Oh, yes.
Same thing, but wrong tool. And then once you do that, punch some numbers in and click OK. Are you all right? You ladies okay over here? All right, so now that we have our graph, now go, with it selected with the black arrow, go up to Object, Graph, and choose Design, and choose your house, and click OK. I think you just choose it there and click OK. It should, oh, it didn't apply it. You don't have your graph selected. Try that again. Select your graph with the black arrow. Okay, we'll do this. I might have made a mistake here. Let me see. Object, graph. Okay, so you have to go to column. Sorry, not go to column and then choose your house.
Ooh.
Now it's stretching them, and there's some ways you can do that. You could have it repeat. So like if this, you know, there's one, they would put one on top of the other. The way we have it now is stretching it. So when you changed it, I think there was a way you could, so there were some options there you could set. But that's how you can use your own graphic to create a graph. Did everybody get that to work? Okay. So that's one way that you can do it. And again, how do I change the colors if I wanted to? What tool, if I want to change this to be purple, this one here, what tool would I use to select it? The black arrow or the white one? The white one. But remember, you want to choose the white arrow and click off somewhere to do select, then click just on that one shape that you want to change. So the black arrow selects everything, the white arrow just selects one shape. Mm-hmm. Let's try that again. So go ahead, use your black arrow, select the whole graph. Just click anywhere on it, it'll select the whole thing. Now go to Object, Graph, and choose Design. Column. And choose your house, and click OK. I think you have a different type of graph chosen. I think that's all that's wrong here. You just need to go and change it to one that's visible. Oh, no. Okay, let's see what your data is. Okay. Okay, let's try, let's see, I'm not sure what happened. So, let's delete this.
It's just like a tutorial.
Oh, it's the learn panel. Okay, remove that. That's what I'm for. I'm just kidding. Okay, so I'm not sure what's going on, but let's get rid of this graph and let's start a new graph. The graph tool. So go ahead and just enter a couple of numbers and with the tab key. Oh, you're going down. It's because of the kind of graph you have chosen. Okay, so let's do that. Let's creating a. All right. So now try it. Now go to Object, Graph, Column. Choose your house and click OK. Okay, I'm not sure what you did. It doesn't look like you saved your house. So let's go back through the process one more time. So I'm going to just get rid of this. I'm not sure what's going on with your house. Why I mean, it's there. Oh, you saved this as a house. Okay, so it's all right. Let's delete this and let's start again. So I'm just going to help you get caught up here. Let's just draw a rectangle. And then we're going to use, you had it all right, so I think you understood how to make it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to do the polygon thing, use my shift key to make it straight, put this here.
I don't know why I didn't say.
It's okay, no big deal. Okay, and then mine is uglier than yours, but bear with me. Put this here. Okay, so now let's select all three pieces, so use your black arrow, draw, there you go. Go up to Object, Graph, Design, say New Design, and then rename it to call it House. Okay, click OK. Now you can delete what's on the screen. Now use your Graph tool. Okay, and then just put some numbers in there.
Where do we go?
Across, yes, across, please. There you go. Good. All right, now you can, there you go. Close that box. And close this little dialog. Now select your graph with the black arrow tools. And go up to Object, Graph. It's not selected, maybe. Object, Graph, Column, choose House. There you go. It's an ugly house, but you get the idea, right? Everybody okay? All right, so that's one way that you can easily create graphs in Illustrator. I'm going to be honest with you, they haven't updated this tool in a long time, and I wish it was a lot better, but it's still cool. You can still do a lot with it. So you can go in and stretch things. You can have them repeat if you wanted to. There was one in the USA Today a couple years ago where they were talking about how many children were in the household, and it was like 2.5, and one of the kids was cut off. Not a fan of that, but I like the stretching ones better for that kind of thing. But anyway, so that's how you can create a graph really simply in Illustrator. Okay, so Illustrator, just in case you're interested, is a vector program. Anybody in here ever use Photoshop? So Photoshop works with photographs which are pixel based. If you zoomed in on a photograph and you see all those little squares, those are pixels. The idea behind this is this is called vector, so you get really crisp, sharp edges. You could take this and blow this up to 1,000%, and it's not based on pixels, it's based on mathematical curves. So the beauty of using Illustrator is that you can blow it up to any size. So when I see people on Craigslist saying, you know, I need to make a logo in Photoshop, it's my lot in life to write to them and say, that's not the program to create a logo in. Do it in Illustrator, because you can make it this big in Illustrator, and you can blow it up 2,000% and it's still crisp. If you did that in Photoshop, it would just be garbage. So this is Illustrator, and we're working with vector shapes in here, okay? So that was great, everyone. Anybody have any questions on that? Just got your feet wet with working with Illustrator. So you know what the two main tools are at the top. You could add text if you wanted to. Let's add a headline. So you have a type tool. Grab the type tool and click and drag somewhere on above your shape. Put some text in there. It automatically fills with Greek, but as soon as you start typing, it'll get rid of it. So just call it whatever you want. Notice that Illustrator is context sensitive. Jillian is typing right now, so up at the top, there she goes. You did it right on cue, girl. You centered the type. Why didn't it center?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe just like the whole thing. Is that? I don't know. Nope.
Okay, hold on. That is weird. I was watching you. It didn't look like you did anything wrong. Why isn't that centering? Do you have a bunch of...
Okay.
Let me see. I don't mean to grab the mouse out of your
Yeah,
hand,
go
but
for it.
are there extra... Yeah, you must have some extra word spaces. You were testing me, weren't you? So if you have your type selected, you can either be in there with your type tool, or you can have it selected with your arrow, but you'll notice that you'll have little alignment buttons up there. You can change the fonts. Here's a cool trick for working with the fonts. Jillian, right where you are, you have the type selected. Just click up in the Marion field. Don't, just click next to the word Marion. In that field up at the top.
Wait, where is
where
it?
Where it says character. If you just click right in there.
In here?
Mm-hmm. Just click.
Okay.
Why isn't that box going away? This should go away. Well, that's weird that it's not going away.
Yeah.
Okay, once again, I'm just clicking in the text. And if you click in the field for the fonts and use your, I guess you have to select the whole thing. You should be able to see, that's what I was trying to show you. So watch everyone. If you have your type tool and you triple click to select your text, see how I have it selected? Then just go right up in the text field, the font field, and just click. Now I can use my up and down arrows and it takes me through the fonts. So you can see what that type looks like. You'll hit one eventually that maybe it won't work. It might be like a Microsoft font or something, but most of them do. So I want to make sure you know how to do that. You all right? Mm-hmm. Good. How about you? You all right?
Yeah, all right.
Do you have any questions?
No.
Okay. Everybody okay over here? Okay.
Wait, I'm selecting it and I'm clicking on it and it's not.
You're using the down arrow?
Oh, okay. I thought you were using right and left.
No, down arrow, but you got it now.
Cool.
So that's nice for someone like me. I like to see the actual font. It's kind of hard to imagine what that's going to look like. So that way you can see the fonts. That's another great trick. So you get the idea. I mean, you at least got your feet wet in it, and if you want to practice any more on it, do you guys have access to lynda.com or LinkedIn Learning Library?
Yeah.
Oh good, you can watch my courses tonight, great. But there's tons of courses on Illustrator if you want to learn more. It's a fabulous program, I love it. Okay, any questions on that? All right, so let's switch gears. Let's go in and do an interactive infographic with a PDF. So anybody, do you guys have Acrobat on your computer?
Question. How can I center the topic with the graphic?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, she's asking how she can center the text with the graphic. Okay, Jillian's going to show you. Use your black arrow, select the graph, and then shift click to select your text.
Okay.
So that, or you could do a select all. And then when you go up to that, not the paragraph alignment, the other alignment tools aren't showing up there, I'm not sure why. Go to Window and bring up the alignment palette. It's because you're showing on screen, you probably have them. If you select them both, no, you don't have them either. I don't know why they're not showing. Pull that align palette down by grabbing the word align.
Okay, I see it.
Oh, there you go. So there are some different align tools. So what you would want to do is use that where it says align objects, that second one from the left. And that would center everything together. So she was asking how she can center the headline over the graph. Select both pieces, and then in that align panel, where it says align objects, choose that second one over and it will center them.
It seems it's
You all
not
right?
working.
If you click any of them, it doesn't
Yeah, it doesn't work.
shift.
Well, yours is already centered. Maybe that's why. Let's
Yeah,
see.
but if I click that one.
Okay, let me see. It's because this is the same size. I think if I made this smaller, we might see it better. Let's see. Okay, you know, things just aren't going my way here today. I'm going to show you on something else so that you know that I'm not lying. I'm drawing 3 shapes. I can select them and I can tell them to align to the top. I can distribute space between them if you show your options over here. I can distribute the space between them. Why this one isn't working up here, I do not know. Let me see. this was over here, I should be able to. Okay, that's the weirdest thing. I'm not sure what's going on, why that's not working. If I did this, God bless you. Okay, so for some reason it's not working with the graph. I'm not sure why. I never had that problem before. But if you want to test it and it's not working with your graph, draw a shape. Notice I drew a rectangle. And just put your type above it. And if you select the two pieces and use that align object center, then it would work. For some reason it's not working with the graph. I've never had that problem before. But were you able to get it to center?
You can also just do it when you see the pink line.
Yes.
And then that automatically aligns it.
Too. Yep. Another thing you could do that I do a lot, especially because you have your rulers on, sometimes I draw guides so that I have a guide so I can drag everything to that guide. That's another trick. So let's try that. In your ruler on the left, the ruler going down the side, click in the black area and drag a guide over. In your rulers are on, click in the black section of your arrow. Click and drag a guide over onto your slide.
A guide?
Yes,
Can you
from
do
the
it?
ruler. So here, if you grab here and drag a guide over. Now, once that guide is on your page, if you click off it, it turns like an aqua color, but when it's selected, it's blue. So it looks really different when it's selected. So right there, it's selected. And here it's like an aqua color. So when it's selected, you can actually go up here and put in where you want it to be. So if you wanted it to be at a certain, this is 8.5, so 4.25, we'll put it right in the center. So I'll show you all how I did that. So if you turn your rulers on, grab a guide and pull it onto your page. And while it's selected, it'll be a darker blue when it's selected. Change your X at the top to be halfway across the page, which is 4.25. So let me show you that again. Get rid of this. All right, I've got my rulers on. I'm going to go in this black area, and I'm going to drag a guide onto my page. So when it's selected, it's blue, but watch when I click off, it turns like an aqua color. So you want to select it, and then you can tell it where you want it. X is always in from the left, and Y is down from the top. So here we want to put it in from the left at 4.25. So for your X, change that to 4.25. Now it's directly in the center. Now if she selects the type, see how it's got center handles? You can do this, Jillian. You can nudge it. I'm using my arrow keys. So once you have that guide in the center, everything you put on the page, you can easily line things up with those center guides. Does that make sense? Is anyone having trouble? Okay. Cool.
How do you make the graph bigger and smaller?
So a couple ways you could do it. You could grab it and use your shift key to make it bigger, but probably the better way would be the scale tool. So the letter S, S as in scale, will take you right to the scale tool. See how it's got a small shape and a bigger shape next to it? So double click on the scale tool when you have your graph selected, and you can put in a percentage, or you could just use that scale while you have the scale tool selected. Hold your shift key down and drag on your shape. So let me show you again. I've got my scale tool selected. I can click on my item, and I should be able to just, I'm holding my shift key down to keep it constrained, but I can make it bigger that way. Or I could double click and go in here and put in a percentage. Okay? So lots more we can do in here with infographics, but I just wanted to get your feet wet with Illustrator. Isn't Illustrator fun? Okay, good. All right, so let's, does everybody have Acrobat on their computer? And you can stay here if you don't and continue to work. It's up to you. Do you have a
No.
Okay, anybody have Acrobat? If you don't, we'll take turns doing it. I have a file that we can create an interactive infographic with. So I'm going to quit out of Illustrator for right now and not save that. We need Acrobat, but if you don't have it, it's okay. We want Infographics. We're going to open the one, so who has Acrobat on their computer, not Reader? Okay, so if you guys just have Reader, you can just open it for now, and we'll take turns doing it on my computer so that you can see how
I
it
could
works.
switch and like watch if someone wants to.
Sure, that's
Do you
fine.
wanna? Or yeah. I'll switch.
Okay. So let me show you what we're going to do in the infographic files that you got.
Do you need Acrobat Pro or just DC?
Any that's the same thing. DC is the new one. It's called Document Cloud. But you're fine. Any version of Acrobat would work. So if you have the infographic files, go into the interactive folder and open the one called Designer's Final. This is just a silly little one that I created to show you how you can make an interactive infographic as a PDF. So the one called Designer's Final, you should be able to open that in Reader, and you can use your little hand tool to go in here and click on all these shapes. These are just PDF files. And I just use the button tool to connect them. So I'm going to show you how easy this is to do. So notice that I'm clicking on these and the text at the bottom is changing. Do you see that? So all it is a bunch of pages. So it's just clicking and going to another page, but I just happen to have this graphic on every page, so it works like an infographic. Does everybody see how that works? All right, so here's what we're going to do. I'll show you first, and then you can come up and take turns. So you're the only one who has Acrobat. Anybody else have Acrobat? Okay, we're going to do it. Let's see. How do we do that? Okay, everybody will get a chance. All right, I'm going to close the Designer's Final. And if you have Acrobat, not Reader, open designers.pdf. And Erica, did you want to come up and be the guinea pig? I guess I shouldn't say it quite like that. So I forget your name.
Mia.
Mia, excuse me, Mia. If Mia's has Acrobat open, this is for Mia only. Go under View, go down to Show Hide, go to Navigation Panes, and choose Page Thumbnails. And that'll just give you these little things down the side. You can see that I have all these are individual pages. So all I did was from the first slide, I just made buttons that go to all those other pages, and I duplicated them on every page. And when you see how easy it is, it's ridiculously easy. All right, so this file is called Designers, and she's going to do one, and everybody's going to get a chance to try it. So we're on slide number 1. All of these boxes are the same on every slide. So what we want to do is start on the first slide, put all the buttons in, and then we can select them all and in one step duplicate them on every slide. That's how you were able to pick on every single page. So starting on slide number 1, and this is really just for Mia and Erica, and then everybody gets to try it. You're going to want to bring up your button tools. So we're going to want to go to, where's multimedia? This looks different than I'm used to. Give me a second here. Go to Tools up at the top. Rich Media. Can you click Add?
Sure.
Now it's over here. So these are all your different categories that you can pick from. If you don't see one that you
just
want,
lost it.
you find them under that Tools menu.
Okay.
So now click that. So there you are.
I just
You've
lost
got
it.
So now you want to go to the Button tool.
Add button.
Add Button. Draw a button over top of number 1. So it doesn't have to be perfect. Now you can double click on it or right click and say go to properties, either one. All properties, that works too. All right, so stay here for a second.
Okay.
You with me? Okay, and everybody's going to get a chance to try this. This is the button tool in Acrobat. The reason I love the button tool more than the link tool is with this button tool, we can put all these buttons in and tell them what page to go to, and then we can select them all and in one step duplicate them on every slide. That's the reason why I love the button tool. So think about what we're doing here. This one has a number 1 under it. We want to hook this to the second slide, which is for number 1. So with this button tool, we have this open. I'm big on naming things, so I just get rid of this and I call it 1. Makes it easier. Go under Appearance. Now, it's got a fill, and we want it to be none. Remember what we said the symbol was? So go under, you're okay with border. That one's already set. We want to go to fill and change that to be, okay, close that for a second. Why am I not
Close
seeing
it?
Could you?
Let me close it.
Yeah, why am I not able to pick none there? Try that again. I think it's supposed to be a transparent button down here or something. the heck?
Sorry.
Can I step in there?
Sure.
I do this 300 times a day, and the day you're doing it live, it doesn't work the way you're used to it. I should be able to choose none. There should be a transparent thing in here. That's the darndest thing. Okay, just so you don't think I'm crazy. Whoops, let me go back and choose edit my button tool. It's got a fill and stroke of none.
Now it's there.
That's the darndest thing.
Is
So
it
we're-
right-click it or something?
You go into the properties, I should be able to, I guess I could trials, no, I don't know why it's doing that. Okay, come on now. All right, let me try in this file and see. That's gonna make white. Or black, rather. I don't know what's going on, why it's not letting me change it to none. I'm not usually stumped, but
Would it be in settings?
no, it's here. There should be a button that says, there should be something that says transparent with a checkbox. And it's not showing, so, try that again. Add a button. General. That's really strange. I'm not sure what's going on here, but I should be able to choose. This should say transparent. There should be a checkbox. That is very strange. It's picking up a color. Well, I love when things don't go as planned. Let me think for a minute how I can fix that. It's just not doing what it's supposed to do. I'm going to try quitting out of the program and see if that helps. Add button. My mouse got stuck. Ladies, I do not know what's going on. It is not working the way it's supposed to. It's supposed to allow me to make it transparent. This is the issue when you work on someone else's computer. You don't know how to fix it. That's going to make it white. I'm just hitting the... I'm dumbfounded. I don't know how to fix this. This has never happened to me before, so I apologize. I'm not sure what's going on. On my laptop, I swear, there's a little button down there that says transparent.
Mine doesn't have it.
Yours doesn't have it either. Okay, we're going to have to move on to something else because I just don't know how to fix this. I don't think they could have updated the program since yesterday, so I'm sorry. It's not working the way I want it to, but what I'm trying to show you is that you would take the button tool and put a transparent button over here, and this is driving me crazy. I don't know why it's not working. Say that again? I guess. I mean, I can show you on the one that I have here, but why isn't it working on these computers? I could pull up my laptop and show you on my laptop so you don't think I'm lying. Anyway, we'll add a button, and I'm just going to wing it. So I'm just going to go into properties, and I'm going to choose the same. I'm going to use the eyedropper here and choose the same fill color. So it's the same color at least. We can see what it is. So I'm going to put this here. It's really weird. and I can put a label on it, so I'm going to put a 1 so that it at least has something in it. What I was trying to show you is that under actions, you can tell it to go to another page. So I'm going to tell it to go to a page view. I want it to go to slide number 2. So I say add, and it says, okay, go to that page, and then hit set link. So I'm on page 1. I want to go to page 2, set the link, and now that button will go to page 2. And if you want to test it, we're on slide 1. I'm going to use my preview here. When I click on it, it goes to page 2. I'm sorry, I don't know why it's not letting me make it invisible, and there's no point in showing you if it's not working. I apologize, I don't know why that's happening. Mine at home works. This one isn't working, and I don't know why. I love live demos. Okay, I'm sorry. I wanted to show you how that works, and I'm not going to be able to, but if you connect with Erica, I'll make sure that I get directions to her so that you can download Acrobat and try it yourself, and I'll share this file with you. I apologize. What I was trying to do was to use the button tool. Select it. So I put a button. Let me go to my other one so I can show you what I did. I put a button, an invisible button over every one of these. So these all have buttons over top of them. See how they're all named? These are all invisible buttons that I put over top of them that go to the next slide. This one goes to slide 2. This one's set to go to slide 3, and so on. So once you have all of those set up, then you select all of them. I'm going to shift click to select them all. This is the beauty of the button tool when it works. And if you right click and go to duplicate, you can duplicate those buttons all across all pages. I did one for somebody once that had sort of like a nav bar like you would see on a website, and it was for a zoo, and they had it was like a sign that had, like a signpost that had all these pieces of wood on it. It was just whimsical thing down the side, and all the different categories, I put a button over every one, selected them all, and duplicated them, and we had a really nice navigation bar on every slide. So I apologize it's not working the way I wanted it to, but I'll make sure that I get directions to you so you know how to do it. We're using the button tool. Yes?
I have a question. So for each button, we can only add one page?
Each button can only do one thing, so it can only go to one place. Here's another example. This one I can show you. Here's another example of why you might want to use the button tool. Let me open another file. Let me go back here. I'll use the same one. What if you wanted to add a print button? You can use a print button. So I'm going to do it, and then everybody's going to get a chance. That way we know it'll work. I'm going to use the button tool. I'm going to draw a button. And I'm going to go in here and name it print. So really this is just for you, Mia. Everyone else will get a chance to try it in a minute. In appearance, you can go in, you can't make it transparent, we know that, but you can choose a color in here if you want the button to be a certain color. I'm choosing a dark blue. And then I can go under options, and I can put something on that button. So maybe I want to say print page. And then I might want to make that type a different color, so I can go under appearance and change that type to be white. And I'm going fast here, but I'll show everybody how to do it. So I made a button, I named it print, I went under appearance, I gave it a color, I made the text a different color. I'm not going to worry about position because I don't care where it sits on the page. Under options is where I added a label. So if you want text on that button, you add it there. So I put print page. And then finally, you need to tell it what you want it to do. So under actions, I'm using an action called execute a menu item. What that means is everything up here can be made into an action. Anything you see in these menus, and there's a file print here. So I'm going to make a button that when you click it, it brings up the print menu. So I'm choosing execute a menu item, which sounds really confusing, but all it is it's going to give you access to all those drop-down menus. So when I click add, I just look through here and find file print. I click OK. I click close. I'm going to close this little thing up here so that I can preview it. And now when I click that, it brings up the print menu. So at least we got one button that worked. So I'd like everybody to at least try it so you see how to make a button, and I apologize that other one wasn't working. But let's take turns here. Let's add some buttons to the page. Who wants to try? Anybody? Erica, do you want to come up and try adding a button just so you know how to do it? Oh, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. I'm going to be laying in bed tonight trying to figure out why that happened, though. You have no idea. Probably around 1:30 I'll figure it out. That is the darndest thing. All right, so what you want to do is go to your button tool. So let's start from the beginning. Close that. You don't know where your button tool is. It's under Rich Media. Okay. And so add button. Just draw a button anywhere. It doesn't matter what size you make. And then you can double click on it. You can name it there if you want. And double click on it. Under General, name it Print. Under Appearance, you can choose a border and a fill. If you want to choose if you choose a border, it gives you the option to make it look beveled in case you want to make it look kind of three-dimensional. So, okay, and then if you add a border color, you can choose from these different options up here if you want. Okay, once you've added
It didn't go.
yeah, try that again. Okay, close that.
Choose it there or just
It should work now. That time it should. Oh, it's not holding it. Why isn't it? Let me see.
No, we can't get this one off.
Maybe it is you. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just going to choose a pink color here. It looked like you had the green chosen. I don't know what's going on. It is not keeping the colors. What's happening here?
That one won't go off no color, and this one.
Okay, is everyone seeing? It's not me. All right. What I was
think
trying.
you should have someone else do the demo first.
I'm going to go get a drink. Will you guys hold on? When you choose a border color, it does let you under line thickness. You can make it beveled looking, and we'll just pretend that it's doing it. All right, so now nothing under there. Go to Options. If you want a label on the button, put something in there like Print Page or Print Me or something like that. Now, go back to Appearance, and it'll show you what your type looks like. If you want it bigger, if you want it a different color, you can change the font. Okay, now you need to tell it what you want it to do. Right now it's a button that doesn't do anything. So go to Actions, and we use mouse up because if you ever go to a website, I do it all the time, you click on something and then you change your mind and you drag out and nothing happens. So we set it up so that the same way, when you lift your mouse up, then the action will occur. So if somebody changes their mind, they can still drag out. So leave it on mouse up, and under Select Action, just take a look at the different things that you can do. You can make one that clears a form, plays a sound, all sorts of things. You're going to choose Execute a Menu Item, click Add. Now it's giving you all of the menu items, and you choose File Print, click OK, and click Close. And so now you can close your tools, your Rich Media tools. Now you can click on that, and it should bring up the print menu. Yes! All right, there you go. That's how you make a button. Anyone else like to try? Would you like to try and make a button? Come on up. I'm trying to redeem myself since that whole transparent thing didn't work out the way I wanted it to. Just get rid of this. Okay.
So you downloaded this file from like your desktop, right? Like when you open the program, it's
Yeah.
just like a blank sheet.
Correct. Wait, say that again?
Like this, like.
I created this in.
Yeah. So like, how would you start from like scratch?
Good question. You don't really start from scratch creating stuff like this in Acrobat. I created this. I think this is. I'll tell you how you can tell. Go under File.
Okay.
I wanted to. This is. I'm going to show this in my PDF class later, but I'll show you now. Go to Properties, and the very first tab, Description. It tells you what it was made in. PowerPoint. Okay. I made this in PowerPoint. Okay, so you have to start in something else. What you could do, to be honest, if you had a graphic that you wanted to turn into a PDF, or you had a form, you could open Acrobat and go to File, Create, and tell it to grab something and make it into a PDF. But you don't come in here and just start designing things. You start in another program and then bring it in. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we want to do the Rich Media and choose Add a Button, and then just draw a button anywhere. And you can double click on it or right click and go to your properties. Either one of those works. And I go under General, I name everything, so call it Print. And under appearance, let's see if you can get it to have a border, because Erica couldn't get it to work.
Okay.
You can have little options up here. You can go to the crayons if you want and just pick a color, whatever works for you.
Okay, let's
I
do
forgot I
this
had a coffee
one.
sitting here.
Okay.
Okay, and then close that.
No.
It's not holding the border color. Okay, so it's not me. All right, so just
Yeah,
change the
so
fill. I'm
that's
sorry it's not working the way it's supposed to, but you can try one of these. It might have something to do with the fact that we're recording this in Camtasia. That might have something to do with it.
I don't know. Okay, I'm just trying. No.
That's fine. No, you're fine. All right, now if you
Okay.
now you've got the color you
Yeah.
want, go under. We're not doing anything with position. Go to options and put a label, maybe print me or print page or something like that. Now go back to appearance and you'll see what your type looks like. You might want it to be a lighter color.
Yeah.
You can change the font, you can change the color.
Okay, let's do this one.
There you go.
Okay.
Now go to actions. Now you have to tell the button to do something. So you're going to choose execute a menu item, click add, and find file print. Beautiful.
Okay.
Okay, click close. Now to test it, close your rich media tools and now click on your button and it should bring up the print menu. Great, good job. Make sense?
Yeah.
All right, you guys would you like to try making a button?
Okay.
You all right?
Yeah, I watched it. I'll get it.
Mia, did you get it to work?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else want to try?
Actually, I downloaded it and my button is transparent.
It is transparent?
Yeah.
Show off. Show off. Are you kidding me?
It's so funny.
Yeah. So,
Oh,
You
wow.
downloaded it with your
so yeah, this is what I created. I just created it. And I think it's
Okay, but you're on the final. You sure you're not using mine? Open the other one that's called design. Do file open? Oh, you got it. Okay, make one on this one. Not that I don't believe you, but I don't believe you. I'm just teasing you.
and, at least it's what some of it.
Okay, so you're on the rich media tools. Go to add a button. And now double click to go into your properties.
Going to film like
You can do it there or you can do it in the properties menu. Either one will work. So here you go under general and name it. I'm dying to see if she's going to get transparency.
design.
You go to appearance.
Whatever.
There, she's got the transparent button. Okay, everyone, out of your seats. Come on. Come on. I have to prove to you that I am not lying.
Yeah.
See how it says transparent? Mine doesn't have that checkbox.
What if
Do you see that?
click it? Yeah, and then
That's what I was looking for. When that, even if you choose red, it's still going to be transparent unless you uncheck that box. That box was missing. Were you seeing that box?
I didn't know.
Good answer. All right, so it wasn't me. All right, good job. Thank you for showing that. All right, so while you're here, what I wanted to show you, if you go to border, if you can give it a color, if it will let you, I just wanted to show you how you can make it look beveled.
let's say blue.
Okay? I think transparent was still checked. Try again. There you go. Now that you have that, choose one of these. It's not going to be all that exciting after this big build-up. But just choose like medium or something. Or now click OK, just so we can see what it looks like. You'll see that it has like a you can close it. We can come back in again. Close that. It should show. Is it beveled looking? Oh, it's there it is.
Oh, wow.
You have the fill is transparent, so it's not as exciting. But go double click on your button one more time. Let me see, because you have a.
I didn't create an action.
No, we didn't. That's why I wanted to go back into it again. You didn't do anything wrong, but I'm trying to find your rich media tools to get back to
I
your
have
button.
to search my tool.
Okay,
It's
under
not-
here, tools. The ones that are not over there will say add. So you want to add rich media.
I see.
Okay, now when you go back to your, now it's over here, you can click on it. Rich media. Now you've already created the button, so what you want to do is select object. Choose that tool. Now double click on this. Now it'll take you back into your button. You don't want to use the add button tool because you'll be drawing a new button. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So now you want to go to actions and choose execute a menu item and click add, and then choose. You chose go to a page view. You chose the wrong one. That's okay. All we do is select it here and delete it. You just chose the wrong one. You want to use execute a menu item. Now click add and then find file print in that menu.
This one.
That works, yeah. Click close. Now you want to get out of these tools, so hit that X to put those tools away. Now you can tap on that button and see where it takes you. It should bring up a print menu. You don't have a printer driver installed, but it's doing the right thing. But you got it to work.
Okay.
Can't believe you got the transparency.
Because I just downloaded it. I don't know if it's the Creative Cloud.
There's no logical reason for that because I have the most recent version on my computer at home. I just don't know how to explain that. And you didn't have the transparency button either. Okay. I can't explain that, but at least we know it works. So thank you for taking the time to download it. I appreciate you making me not be a liar. Thank you. Does anyone else want to try making a button, or do you have a basic idea of how it works? Okay. All right, let's go into PowerPoint and see if we can break that now. So if you have PowerPoint, open it. If you don't, we can take turns up here. What I wanted to do was maybe spend a few minutes. How much time do we have left? We have like a half hour left. I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about how we could brainstorm. We talked before about using, I said 1 out of 5 students rides bikes to school. That's a statistic I made up. But if we were going to try to make an infographic, I'm going to make a new PowerPoint file. So if we were going to try to make an infographic that, for that statistic, 1 out of every 5 students bikes to work, I'm going to go into my, does everybody have PowerPoint? Anyone who doesn't have it? Okay, so just open a blank one. I'm just going to get rid of these placeholders on my page. I don't need them. So let's talk about it. I'm just going to put some text up here so that you can see it that says 1 in 5 students bikes to school. So obviously the first graphic I think of is a bike, so we could do something with a bike. I have a bike graphic if you want to bring it in. So under Insert, Picture from File, if you go out wherever you stored those infographics files, there should be under the Illustrator folder, somewhere in here, oh, under Ping, there should be a couple bicycles in there you could bring in. One of them is more detailed than the other, just pick one. And you can grab a corner handle while you hold down your Shift key and resize it if you want to.
Can you go over that one more time? Sorry.
Of course. So I'm going to go, I want to bring that graphic in. I'm going to go to Insert, Picture from File. There's, in the infographic files, in the Ping folder, there's 2 bicycles. You can grab either one, it doesn't matter. Just click Insert and it comes in on your page. It's too big and I want to size it down. So if you don't hold your Shift key down, you're going to do this. So what you want to do is hold your Shift key down to constrain the proportions and then grab a corner handle, and that allows you to resize it without distorting it. Is that what you wanted to see?
Yeah.
Okay,
Sorry.
good. You all right? Okay, good. All right, so 1 in 5 students bikes to work. We talked about using a bicycle. What are some other things we could do? We could show, I just happen to have these graphics in here, so I'm going to pull one in. I'm going to go back to Insert, Picture from File, and there should be some little men and women in different colors. You know, I'm just thinking of ideas. What if 1 in 5, what if we had 5 people lined up, but one of them was a different color that you could show 1 in 5? That's what I'm trying to get to. So if you want to hold your Shift key down and bring all the men and women in at once so that you have them to work with, there's a dark, medium, and light for each, for the man and for the woman. So you could go in, you could make them all light and make one dark to show 1 in 5, that sort of thing. So again, when you're resizing, you want to hold your Shift key down. You could resize by holding multiple ones. So if you wanted to use your Shift key to select multiple ones, you can do that too. So let's say we were going to make, I'm going to use the light orange man. And I'm going to duplicate him and maybe put a woman in there. Oops. In the middle. You know, something like that, 1 in 5, you could do something that way. Anyone have any other ideas on how you might display 1 in 5 students bikes to school? I might show 4 cars or a bus, and I don't know, I guess people could be riding buses too. I'm trying to to give you the idea of what it's like when somebody gives you information like that, and you have to kind of think of ways that you might display it. So you might display it as 1 in 5. You might have, I'm just thinking how I might do this. I might have, 4 cars and a bike, or 2 buses and a car and a bike, or something like that. What other ideas can you think of for 1 in 5 students bike to school? I might have, say that again? Yeah, you could do that. I was trying to think of, what if you had a picture of a building, I'm making this up as I go, with a bike rack with 5 slots and only 1 bike, something like that maybe. So again, just thinking, what I do when I have to come up with something is I start just putting down everything I can think of on paper, as silly as it might sound, and you never know when it's going to be a good idea. But is everybody able to get those, resize those? And when you select all of these, you can align them using the Align panel. You can separate them evenly if you want to. You all right?
Yeah, I actually just closed it because I was like, oh, I got it.
Oh, you're fine. No, you're fine. You all right?
Yeah.
Everybody okay? So there, you could use these people, but you could also do shapes. You could do, a bunch of squares and have one be a triangle or something to make it stand out. There are lots of different ways that you could display this.
I have a question.
Sure.
Where can we find these kind of like elements, like from the internet, so that I don't have to create it all by myself?
That's a good question. She wanted to know where she can get these elements. You can buy them, or you can, there are probably, I think there are places you can get them for free. The website that I use, and they're probably free ones, Mia. This is just the website that I use, 123rf.com. I can draw all these things, but why would I if I can buy them? So this is the website that I use, where you buy credits. There probably are free places that you can get some of this, but I'll just show you. When I go in here, if I was looking for, I think this might be where I got the bicycle. Bicycle, I'm going to choose vector illustration. If you just leave it all, you're going to get photographs and all kinds of stuff. So I went to, God bless you, I went to 123RF, which stands for royalty free. Once you buy these, they're yours. You can use them all over the place. You can change them. You can do whatever you want. So I put in bicycle. I'm choosing vector illustration, and I'm going to click the magnifying glass. And it's going to bring up all these different ones. The point I wanted to make here, and this is where you'd have to know a little bit more about Illustrator, but if you want this, the thing to do is to purchase the largest one, which is called a TIFF file. That allows you to open it in Illustrator. If you just buy a JPEG, you're stuck with just a JPEG. But if you buy this is a TIFF, it should be an EPS. I don't know why that says TIFF. This isn't my day. Let me try something different. It should say EPS, not TIFF. EPS. See how it says scale to any size? If I purchase this, I get the Illustrator file. Then I can go in and change the type and do whatever I want. If you buy a JPEG, it's okay, but you're just getting that image, and you're not going to be able, it's going to be a photograph. You're not going to be able to change it in Illustrator. So if you're buying this stuff, try to get the native file if you can. There are places, I know most of my colleagues go to istock.com. I think all of these are purchased, though. And I forgot to tell it to look just for vector. Let's try that again. Illustrations. It's connecting. So by all means, I'll tell you, one of the websites that I use for pictures, and I didn't know this until I was on a recent contract and my client was too cheap to pay for photos, and there's a site called Pixabay, Pixabay, and everything on there is free to use for whatever you want. It's just photos. I don't think there are any illustrations on there, but I had never even heard of this. And it's, it doesn't have thousands and thousands of pictures, but you can pretty much find what you want. But you can use these. It says it has vectors. We'll see. And these are all supposed to be free. I've only used it for photographs, but there are some vectors. I'll be darned. So it's a free download. You just have to create a free account for yourself. But Pixabay is a great option for that sort of thing. Okay, so tell me what you want to do with the rest of the time. Do you want to learn more about Illustrator? Do you want to try doing some, I'll give you some statistics and we can try to come up with ideas on our own. What would you like to do with the time that we have left? Anybody have any thoughts? Any questions?
Are we doing anything with the file you left in the infographic? There's an Illustrator file.
Hang on just a minute till I see what's in there. Oh, I gave you, actually, if you guys want these, you could, if you can put them on, if you've got them on your computer, you can have them because I already paid for them. These are some icon files. So if you want to open those, there's big flat icons. These are off that website, 123RF, and these you can use over and over again. There are tons of icons in here. I just reuse them. So why don't we spend a few minutes, I'm giving you these icons, so why don't we spend a few minutes so that you know how to work with them. So let's all open Illustrator again. I'm going to quit out of PowerPoint. Hopefully this has been helpful. Has this been helpful?
Yeah.
I hope so. Okay.
Can we put these into PowerPoint?
You can, but and I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay. So this is what I did. So if you open Illustrator and then open the file called Big Flat Icons in Illustrator, it ends in a .ai, which stands for Adobe Illustrator. That's the native format. So again, if this was a JPEG, I wouldn't be able to do anything with it. But I purchased this just as I showed you where I purchased the EPS, and then I was able to pull it open in Illustrator. So does everybody have this file open in Illustrator? Use your black arrow tool, and you can see that you can click on things and grab them. So what I did over here on the side is I created artboards. So they're like pages. In Illustrator, they're called artboards. So just pick one of those icons that you want. You can see I've got all these little ones over here on the side. Let's say you wanted the blue truck. Does everybody see the truck? Select it with your black arrow and copy it. Command C to copy it. Okay? Everyone all right? Now I'm going to show you a little trick because I've got all these artboards off to the side. I want to move over to that side. I'm going to hold my space bar down. When you hold your space bar in any Adobe program, it turns into the hand tool. So while you're holding down your space bar, you can use your mouse to move around. I'm holding my space bar down. Does everybody see how that works? So you can move around. You can also, anybody remember the shortcuts to enlarge or reduce? Command plus or Command minus. So if it's too big on the screen and you want to make it smaller. So again, the space bar allows me to get the hand tool so I can move it around while I'm holding down the space bar. And then I also have zooming, but you can, if you forget them, they're under view. There's a zoom in and a zoom out. So what I wanted to do was I copied the truck. I'm going over to the side. I'm going to make a new artboard, throw that truck on there, and then export that as a ping file. That's what we're going to do. So did everybody copy the truck? All right, so if you use your space bar to move over where you have some room, we're going to make a new artboard, which is like a new page. So we're going to find our artboard tool, which is Shift-O is the shortcut. It should take you right to the artboard tool. It's near the bottom of your page. Come over here and just click and drag to create a new, it's called an artboard, but you'll know it more like a page. So I just drew a new artboard. Everybody okay? If you wanted it a certain size, there's stuff at the top you can put in the width and height. I'm just going to go back to my black arrow, and I'm going to paste my truck, Command V, and wherever it landed, pull it up onto your artboard. Everybody okay? Erica, you need some help? My problem, child. I'm just kidding. Did it work?
Nope.
Okay, let me help you.
Oh wait, it did. It
You sure?
didn't go
Okay.
onto the artboard row.
It doesn't go onto the artboard. You have to, okay. So once it's there, I'm going to select it again. And what key do I hold down to enlarge something but keep it in proportion? Shift. So grab a corner handle. It's all grouped together. So you should be able to grab a corner handle with your shift key and make that truck nice and big. Sort of like what I did here. Is everybody okay? Anyone need help? So I'm giving you these icons so you can go, it's going to take a little time, but you can go in and export all of these as PNG files and use them however you want. All right, I've got my truck. So if you look down at the bottom left corner of your screen, that little bar at the bottom, it'll show you the number of artboards. I have a lot of artboards in here. It's number 33. Okay? If you clicked on a different artboard, you would see that the number changes. So you can always tell what artboard you're on right down here with this number, okay? Does everyone see that? Because when you're going to export it, you have to tell it what artboard, and if you don't have the right number in there, it's going to give you a check mark or a pencil or something else. So again, my truck is artboard 33. I just want to remember that, okay? So what I usually do is I click on the actual artboard that I'm on, that way I know the number. Now go to File, Export, and choose Export As. Pay attention to where you're saving it. I'm putting it right in that Illustrator folder. I'm going to call it Truck. PNG is what we want. If you don't click Choose Artboards, you're going to get 35 individual files, and you don't want that. You just want the truck. So choose Artboards, and where it says Range, enter the one you're using, which is 33. Okay? Everyone with me? So we named it, we told it where we want it, we told it choose artboard, and we chose which one, and click export. And then in the next window, this is the important part, you can make it a higher resolution so that you can make it really big if you want. Choose, under resolution, choose high, and under background, make sure transparent is chosen. Otherwise, if you leave it on white, you're going to get a white background. So leave it on transparent. Make sure you're paying attention to where you're saving it. Click OK. And it saved that truck as a PNG file with a transparent background. So now I'm going to go back into PowerPoint just to show you how that works. Open a new document. Get rid of these placeholders. I'm going to do an Insert, Picture from File. And I'm using my, where did I save it? I'm telling you to pay attention to where you save it, and I'm not sure where I put it. There's Truck. So now I can bring it in, and it's nice, high quality. I can put something else behind it. So if I wanted to put a shape back there behind it, a lot of times I put like an oval to make it look like it's on the road. Make that like a gray color or something. And now because it's got a transparent background, you can see through it. So here's what I do, ladies, because I do this all day long. I have a folder, I'm not on my own computer, in Dropbox, which I'm not hooked into. I have hundreds of these. This process we just did, I have hundreds of icons, so that anytime I need a truck or a hand or anything like that, I can go in and find them. So I put all mine in a folder in Dropbox, and that way every computer of mine that I go to, I have access to them. But that's all you have to do. Let's go back to Illustrator and save one more so that you know how to do it. So Mia, pick an icon for us to save. The watch, okay? So I'm going to select the watch and I'm going to copy it. The other thing you could do is you could draw the artboard first and you can option drag a copy. Let's try that. So instead of, we're going to use the watch. Let's go over to the side. Use your artboard tool. Shift-O is the shortcut for the artboard tool. It's near the bottom down there. It's right above the hand. Just draw yourself an artboard off to the side. Go back to your black arrow, and this time instead of copying and pasting, Option is the key that allows you to drag a copy. So using your black arrow, hold down your Option key and drag that watch onto the artboard, and that makes a copy. Option dragging in Illustrator makes a copy. It works in any Adobe program. Okay? So instead of copying and pasting and not knowing where it goes, this way we know right where it is. You can use your Shift key and your black arrow tool to grab a corner handle and make your watch bigger. Now my artboard's too big. I'm going to go get my artboard tool again, and then I can just make this smaller. So I'm going to get my artboard tool, Shift O, and I can just pull this in so it's not so big.
So if you do Control C and Control V, it could, like, would it not paste like in there?
It doesn't, unfortunately. I wish it did. It doesn't. Oh, if you had paste in place, no, it's not. It doesn't work that way.
So you have to do Command C and then.
You can do Command C and Command V to copy and paste, or you could do what I just did. Did you see what I did? Where I chose the watch,
Yeah.
and I held my Option key down, and that allows you to drag a copy.
Yeah.
That's the only other way. All right, so once you have your watch, and again, I just like to make my artboard smaller. I don't like to have an enormous artboard because it makes the file bigger. So while that's selected, I take a glance down there and notice that I'm on artboard 34, so I know that that's where I want to be. I go to File, Export, Export As. I'm big on naming things, so I'm going to call this watch. Make sure that you chose PNG as your format. Use artboards. We're going to use artboard 34. Click export, and again, I like to make them high res, and I like to make them have a transparent background, and that way when I pull that into PowerPoint or whatever I'm working in, it's high quality, so I can also always go in and make it bigger if I needed to. So I'm going to pull the watch in here. And there it is. So you can have those icon files and you're welcome to use them. I just want to make sure before you leave here that you know how to do what we just did. So that you have all those great icons but you don't know what to do with them. This way you will. So let's try one more to make sure you know how to do it. There's another file in that folder called Big Icons 2. Or there's one couple called Education. There's a bunch of icons in there you can use. Go to the one called Icons Professional. There's hundreds of icons in here for all different professions. See them? Now these are the flat design ones that have those flat shadows. I'm not a big fan of those, but watch what I can do. Let's say I want this hand, this thumbs up, but I don't want that shadow behind it. I can go in here. These aren't grouped. I thought they would be. You can shift click to select all the pieces and you can just not get what you don't want. Okay, that didn't sound right. Not get what you don't want. You can just grab what you want is what I was trying to say. So zoom in. If you're on this one called Icons Professional, zoom in with your Command plus. I'm looking at this ID card, for example. These are not grouped. I wish they were. They're individual pieces, it looks like. Some of them are. This one's grouped. But if it's got the shadow, we can always go in and delete the shadow later. But these are some icons that you can use. So I'm going to grab one of them and copy it. Use my space bar to go over to the side. Make myself a new artboard over here. I'm really zoomed in. Please let me know if you're having any trouble. I'm going to make a new artboard with that artboard tool. I'm going to paste my little ID card and make it bigger. And again, I want to resize this artboard. And I'm going a little fast, but please raise your hand if you need help. I'm happy to come over and help you.